Yeah, but Enki, his brother, the creator of the human race, felt differently, and that is where the whole story of Noah and the ark and God telling Noah how to build the ark and the stories in the Bible and the Sumerian tablets differ slightly, because in the Sumerian tablets Enki tells Ziusudra how to build a submersible boat. So we get to understand that the ark was actually something that was completely closed in, that could be completely covered by water, not just like a ship or a boat that could float on top of water.
Right.
So it goes, yeah.
And Enlil actually begrudgingly respected the Noah character in the Epic of Gilgamesh and let him go about and do his thing, didn't he?
Well, there was always Enlil and Enki always seemed to be at odds. They seem to be the yin yang, or the positive and negative of the Anunnaki, and that in itself they create a very interesting archetype in pretty much everything that we deal with as a species on this planet. And they could indeed be the source of this positive and negative activity that we face on a daily basis on this planet.
Interesting, yeah. Because one seems to be the creative principle, and the other seems to be the organizational principle.
Yeah, and the controlling principle, and this is how it's done. And if you don't do it my way, it's my way or the highway kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, that's a great distinction. I always felt like Enlil was like the bean counter of the two, you know?
Yeah, I think he was a lot more than that. By my gut feel and my research would tell me that he was a lot more than that, and he was probably what one would call the vindictive or the dictator god in the
Sure, yeah. I was being slightly reductive, but yeah, I mean, I think that his function seemed to be a lot more Apollonian, while Enki was a lot more Dionysian. If you want to break it down into those two pieces, my sense too is also that Enki fell in love with his creations. You know, he really, you know, literally and figuratively. I mean, he fell in love with them, and he had quite an affection towards them as well.
Yeah, and then he procreated with them as well.
Exactly, absolutely.
Therefore, you know, many people talk about the two creations in the Bible, where in the Sumerian tablets we read about the two creations as well. You know, for people that aren't familiar with the Sumerian tablets, I really recommend that they go and do some research. Read Zecharia Sitchin, but other than that, go online and go to the museums of the world and check out the Sumerian tablets that the museums have on display, and look at them and read the translations for yourself, and start you know, getting this information into your subconscious, because although it might not mean much to you if you read it now in isolation, once you've read a bunch of them, 100 or 200 of them or so, you start seeing patterns, recurring patterns, and the same characters and the same situations that are being referred to. And these are tablets that have been collected from diverse and distinct parts of the world that are not necessarily from the same little find or discovery. So what it tells us that there's definitely a set of activities and characters and occurrences that these ancient Sumerians wrote about and referred to. And we've got to start taking them seriously and stop treating them like, you know, some mumbo-jumbo nonsense written by ancient civilizations because they were drunk or they were trying to confuse us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that the Sumerian tablets and the Epic of Gilgamesh is probably one of the most important artifacts that we have at our disposal. I mean, there's, you know, of course, we have the Bible and then the Colburn Bible, and there's a few other pieces out there, but it's very significant. And I remember getting exposed to it in college, and you know, and just seeing the crossover between the Old Testament and the Epic of Gilgamesh just really blew my mind. What about let's go back to this whole concept of gold, Michael. And you know, I a lot of the people who listen to my show are pretty sophisticated, and they may have their own ideas as to why gold was important to the Anunnaki. But I'd like to get your take on why gold, and to this day, why is gold so important as a result of all of this?
Well, once again, we got to go back to the Sumerian tablets and take at face value what they tell us. And originally they tell us that they needed gold. They chose gold. They found gold to be the one element that could help them in their plight of their own, potential destruction of their planet, or serious damage to their planet by the effects of cosmic rays and the destructive frequencies that were attacking their planet from space. We know that from Earth, from our own experiences here with our so-called holes in our ozone layer, and how, we've been warned over the past, 30 or 40 years, there's a huge hole in the ozone layer over the Antarctica, and there's a huge hole that's appeared over there, and the havoc that it's caused on planet Earth and those kind of things. Well, things could get a lot worse than that. And so the Sumerian tablets described the Anunnaki as having those exact kind of problems, but a lot worse than what we've experienced here on Earth. And they found gold to be the one substance that could solve that problem. And the gold doesn't seem to be a metal or an item that is easily found in our galaxy and possibly even in the universe. And yet we have an abundance of it here on planet Earth. And they found that abundance on this Earth. And they came here looking for it, they found it, and they started mining it. And that's really as simple as it is. If we found something really amazing on the moon or on Mars, and we found that could enhance some aspect of our lives here on planet Earth in ways that we can't even imagine now, or put our planet into some utopian spin or something, we would go to Mars or the moon and we'd start mining the living daylights out of it and bring it back to Earth. Well, that's pretty much what happened, except the other way. And for those people that have watched that incredible movie Avatar, that's pretty much the reverse situation of what happened to planet Earth. The storyline in Avatar, it's beautiful,
Yeah, I was actually going to go there. It's pretty interesting, and in fact, there's even the whole concept of creating the Avatar, creating this hybrid species.
Yeah, exactly.
That Cameron puts out there. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Robert, the thing is that these things are actually very simple. What we got to stop doing as arrogant, egotistic humanoids on this planet in the 21st century, stop thinking that we've got all the answers and we know everything. We know nothing. And history has shown us that we know nothing. And if you just do a very simple calculation as to how much do we know about our human history, you'll very quickly realize that we know so little that it actually becomes laughable. And we've got to start putting together the new pieces of evidence or start from scratch basically, and reconstruct the real history of planet Earth and humanity and our species, and realize that there's been a very long and winding and twisted history to planet Earth, and we just played, as the human race, are playing a very small, teeny-weeny part for the last 300,000 years, which is directly linked to the Anunnaki and their manipulation and their genetic cloning of this new species called Homo sapien in their own image with their own genetic material. So, in essence, we can say that we are aliens. We are genetic material and byproduct of an alien species on planet Earth that arrived here looking for gold. And that's pretty much what it seems to be.
Right. I would agree with you in terms of the lay portrayal, the layman's portrayal, and the layman's understanding of evolution here on this planet. And I would put myself in that category, and I put many other people, even though we read a lot and we do everything in our power to try to untie these knots. But I'm also of the opinion that there are people that really do know what's happened here, Michael, and they really do know what's going on and has gone on here, and they have been working, behind the curtain with a lot of the information that you and your colleagues and some of the other folks have been uncovering, and as a result of that, they've got a head start, and they're actually working on some very sophisticated stuff that. If we had the opportunity to tap into, it could radically change our paradigms overnight. So to that end, how do you see the continuum of the work that you have been immersed in, and how it bleeds over into these other realms of, black technology, secret technology, even secret societies that have the ability to have the history or the prehistory at their disposal.
Yeah, that's very important, and it certainly that whole area of our understanding is very murky and has many different layers and aspects to it. From what I see from our discoveries in southern Africa with these ancient civilizations, it seems that the first 270,000 years or so was very single-mindedly managed or controlled without many problems, by just continually growing the number of people and humans that were involved and engaged in mining, gold mining, and then mining of iron and copper and other minerals throughout southern Africa in very, very large numbers. And just for the sake of your listeners, we need to put this into context. If there's any doubt in anyone's mind where King Solomon's mines were, or where the so-called Abzu is, where the gold came from, let there be no doubt whatsoever that southern Africa is it. There are at least 10 million ancient stone structures that we have discovered, all connected, all linked together by very mysterious ancient roads, all connected by never-ending agricultural terraces. So what it tells us, there was a vast civilization of probably 50 million people or more that lived there for a long period of time. They were well cared for, well taken care of. They were well fed. They didn't go hungry. It was a very cohesive and peaceful and organized society that operated around the mining of gold and other minerals for a very, very, very long period of time. My current estimate is about 270,000 years. And then something happened, this thing called the flood. And that caused the problem, the really big problem. It did a lot of things, and it basically pretty much wiped out all life on planet Earth. And this civilization and the mining operations had to be restarted after the flood. And that was restarted with a slightly different psychology after the flood. And then we suddenly start seeing the whole concept of gods and worshipping, the concept of temples and gods and worshipping, and the control and the appearance of kings and high priests on planet Earth that started to control groups of people,
right,
control them with higher knowledge, having a knowledge that the rest of the people did not have. And if you read Zecharia Sitchin's work, you'll see how the Sumerian tablets tell us that the information was passed down from the gods, the Anunnaki, to the priests, to the kings, and then to the humans. And it was this whole hierarchical structure that was created. And the knowledge, the advanced knowledge of advanced technology and sacred geometry and the laws of nature by which you can manipulate things was held by a very small group of elite priests and possibly some kings, this royal bloodline that has filtered through the last 12,000 years into the royal bloodlines that we still see today, which would include the Vatican and all these other so-called religious movements that are all interconnected. Although they looked like they are distinct and separate on the outside, they're all interconnected. And just to throw a cat among the pigeons for those people that have not figured this out for themselves yet, think about like the word, if you think Jews and Muslims are separate, that is not the case. They all come from the same pod. And even the names that give us their sacred symbols and their sacred gods and their sacred prophets are interlinked. The word Kabbalah, the sacred Hebrew script and text and tree of life, the Kabbalah is actually a combination of the word Kab, which is the cube worshipped by the Muslims, and Allah, the God worshipped by the Muslims. So when you combine the two, you get the Kabbalah, and you realize that we've been messed with and manipulated so beautifully for so long. It's spectacular.
This kind of dovetails with some of the research that I've done on my own, and you're actually in the neighborhood of a guy by the name of Robert Shapiro, who's written a number of books. Are you familiar with him by any chance?
I'm not. No, I'm not.
He's I believe he's in Scottsdale,